So in this video, I'm going to explain Errol's 4 key tips to marathon training.
I'm tired, I'm exhausted.
This is an exciting moment.
Lay on the couch. Just finished the longest distance I've ever run in my life, 20 miles.
This is the best excuse in the world to pamper yourself.
Champion.
Hey there, congratulations! You're interested in running your first marathon, you're doing some online research, and through those metrics alone, it means you care and you're likely to succeed in your goal. This is an exciting moment, and so I'm happy to share with you some tips and advice that worked for me in tackling my very first marathon ever. What are my credentials? Well, no, I'm not a professional, but I did run the Brooklyn Half Marathon twice. I think I shaved off 40 seconds from one effort to the next, which wasn't very good because I did not really train. But more recently, I did run the New York City Marathon. I really enjoyed this, in fact, and I would do this again, either in New York or in another big city around the world. And more than anything else, it was the marathon training that got me here. I'm Errol Barnett. Apparently, I'm the only Black British broadcaster on American television. I've worked as a journalist my entire adult life and traveled the world, but that's come with an incredible amount of stress, challenges, and difficulty, and so I've always sought ways to reduce my anxiety and to ease my spirit, while I continued to work the day job, by the way. And as I'm always looking for ways to take care of my physical and mental health, I found that training for a marathon and the big race day itself actually did that for me. So in this video, I'm going to explain Errol's 4 key tips to marathon training. Your why, your calendar, which will include things like hill repeats, intervals, and long runs, as well as other goodies, your fuel, and your protection from injury. All of these things are really essential and you cannot skip out on either one. And this will be peppered with advice, my experience, things I wish I would have done differently. And this is just general overview advice. Your specific approach, of course, will vary. Step 1, establish your why. This is the first because to me it's the most important. Of course, running 26.2 miles is physically difficult, but it's mentally and psychologically challenging as well, mostly because you will be your own worst enemy. You'll come up with excuses and reasons that you can't get the training in or that marathon running is just too difficult for you. But you can absolutely do this. So center on that spiritual reason as to why you want to run a marathon. For me, it's because running has always been a bit of a family affair. My late sister Natalie was a bit of a track star in high school. She was older than me, so as soon as I got to campus, I wanted to follow in her footsteps. I ran the 110 hurdles, the 300 hurdles, the 4x4 relay, the 4x1 relay. Track runners will know that means I never really sat down at a track meet. I love the atmosphere of other runners and other families being at these events. And in many ways, I ran to honor her. Back in England, where we're from, the Jamaican side of my family was always into athletics and track, and so people like Usain Bolt have always been our superstars. But long distance running, that is a new challenge for me. And unlike any other sport, there's a really low barrier to entry for running. You just get your shoes on and head outside. I also think it's a great way of seeing your city. You get to tour your best parks, your best greenways, or waterfronts. And for me, as I've had to travel for work, running has always been a great way to decompress, to shake off the stress, and to appreciate this beautiful world that we live in. So I'm running a marathon to honor my heritage and stay fit. Step 2, once you've determined your why, start to build your calendar. And that calendar should stretch anywhere from 16 to 24 weeks based on your skill level. And I followed a marathon training plan built by Runna. It's a British-based running app. And in full transparency, I was given access to this through the New York Roadrunners, of which I am a member. In fact, they invited me to run the TCS New York City Marathon through a media invitation effort that they make. And I know how difficult it is to qualify for the New York City Marathon, and I am so privileged and appreciative that I was able to run with them. And because I know how difficult it is to get in, I really took training seriously and followed it as closely as possible. So I'm sharing everything I learned and experienced with you. And I'll get to steps 3 about fuel and 4 about protecting yourself from injury at the end of this video, but I want to spend most of my time on building your calendar and what you will build it with. So based on your skill level, you figure out for how many weeks you want to train and how many days per week is realistic for you to be able to run. For me, that meant 4 days a week. So here is how my plan was structured. Mondays were for the easy runs. Nothing complicated here. You head outside, you enjoy the scenery, you don't push too hard, and you help to get your weekly mileage up. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I ran one of these 3 options, either a tempo run, an interval run, or a hill repeat. And each of them would get longer and more challenging as the training continued, but every 5th week, everything becomes easier. You kind of do 50% effort or 50% distance to help your body regenerate and to not overexhaust yourself. So the tempo runs started at a couple of miles. Eventually they got up to more than 13 miles. And this is me after a tempo run in Central Park.
All right, here we are at Central Park. Heart rate about 138, 136. I've just finished a tempo run for 13.7 miles. Basically a half marathon, I just realized. That's where you run at a comfortable pace for a couple miles. Then you try and hit your marathon pace for about 2 miles. For me, that's a 7:45 split, which is based on my half marathon runs, and I just don't think that's realistic for a full marathon. Anyway, then you go back to a comfortable pace, then you hit your marathon pace, and then a comfortable pace. But I had a really enlightening conversation today with a colleague of mine. We were having a conversation and marathons came up, and he said, oh yeah, I've run 15 marathons. So I said, I have a million questions for you. How do you break it down piece by piece? How do you train? And his approach was much more laid back. He's like, I don't train. I've never trained. I don't even stretch. I do something completely different. He runs every day. Just a couple miles, 3 miles around the neighborhood, nothing serious. But he keeps that up every day of the year, so he can at the last minute decide to run a marathon.
That conversation just stunned me. It basically means that consistency trumps everything. If you run regularly each day, then maybe you don't need to do all these other workouts. But for the rest of us who need to improve our cardiovascular and physical fitness, these workouts helped me. Another component are intervals. Just like with all these workouts, you'll run to warm up in the beginning and at the end at a very easy pace for about half a mile. And then you'll run at what you've calculated to be your marathon pace for about a mile and a half. And then for about 60 to 90 seconds, you'll run at an even faster pace, but then you'll take a 60 to 90 second break. It's a cool down. You're walking. You're not sitting down or staying in one place. You're still moving. And this is something that you'll want to time. Then you run again at your marathon pace, then another portion at a faster pace, and then another cool down. And this interval you'll repeat, 5 or 6 times before cooling down again. And one other thing I want to share is that you're going to have your regular life and trips and events that will interrupt your carefully planned out marathon training. That happened to me many times, and you've got to do your best to do something when you go on these trips. I went on vacation at the beginning of the summer to Aruba, and I still got one long run in, even though that place is basically an island desert. It was very hot, but it was gorgeous. But I wasn't always consistent. I then went back to England to see my family, and I was not able to get a single run in. My wife and I went on to Paris for the Olympics. Then our families took a vacation in Corsica. And so for 2 weeks, I unplugged myself unintentionally from the marathon training. And in retrospect, I wish I hadn't done that, because your body adjusts to all these crazy things you're putting it through. And when you take 2 weeks off, you really do lose some of those gains. If I had to do it again, I would have at least got my long runs in each week.
Today's marathon warm-up run is called Hill Repeats. Should be self-explanatory. And this should also explain what I'm about to do in the place of hills. In Brooklyn, I don't have too many steep hills around me, but the idea is you jog about a mile or a mile and a half. I'm slurring because I just did this. You jog about a mile or a mile and a half to get here, Then you run uphill for about 30 seconds. You take a 20-second rest and you come back downhill. As soon as you get to the base of the hill, you repeat this about 4 times. Then you go uphill for about 90 seconds, rest 30 seconds, and come back downhill. You repeat that 4 times. Basically, you're trying to teach your body how to move at an incline so that during the marathon, when you have to go up a bridge or over a hill, you've had some experience doing it. Like I said, I don't have very many steep hills that I can run out in the open in Brooklyn that don't involve vehicles. So I've come here to the park to get these repeats in. A mile and a half to get here. I'm already sweating because I don't really want to be here. I'm exhausted, I'm tired. I started a new shift at work, so my sleeping patterns are backwards. None of that matters because I'm here now. So let's get going with hill repeats. All right, after all those repeats, and now I do the 1.5 mile run back home, here are my thoughts. Number 1, just get out and train. It's okay if you're imperfect. I should probably be on an actual hill instead of stairs. But I'm lifting my knees up, I'm trying to push as hard as I can, and my heart rate's getting up. So as long as I'm doing as many repeats as the program calls for, I think it's useful. The second thought I have is that, once again, it's more mental than physical. I really did not want to come here today. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I just wanted to lay on the couch. But you have to push through your initial feeling of weakness and being tired, and all of a sudden you run a little bit, your heart rate pumps up, you feel the warmth, and you're ready to go. But I do want to rest after this run home.
And on Saturdays, I did my long runs. That was the easiest thing for me to do based on my schedule. And each week, as you might imagine, they get longer and longer. It was a 3 mile, 5, 7, 13, 17, and then 20. I remember that when I had to do a 13-mile long run, I was in Washington, D.C. Frankie Beverly had just died, and so he was my playlist for that run. And it was really challenging. In fact, I ran up what's called the W&OD Trail, Washington and Old Dominion Trail. I had this picture, I kid you not, on the way back, a sign that read, "Difficult Run." Sometimes the world does have a sense of humor. I did my best to enjoy it. I should have hydrated more, and I'm happy that I at least, push through each of these weekly challenges of trying to get your training in while you're also trying to have a life. A positive mindset continually saved me because, look, there's something about this training where at certain points after a couple months you get grumpy. You don't want to go out into the rain to go to Central Park to get your 17 miles in. And I remember when I was trying to do this and I convinced myself to get out there and to do that run, I discovered that in addition to the rain, there was a concert happening at Central Park and there were all these barriers up and people in ponchos waiting in line. And I just felt really crummy. I was complaining that there was so much traffic at Central Park. But then it switched. And I realized, you know what? These people are out trying to have a good time. It's actually a bit of a blessing to run in the rain because it cools you down. So I just had to shift how I thought of things. So here is me after some of my long runs in Central Park.
17.5 miles. Just completed. Longest run I've ever done in my life. I feel absolutely, I don't feel broken. I feel exhausted. Gotta get this marathon training in. It's raining the whole time, which was actually gorgeous. Central Park, Global Citizen Festival, messing up my run. But truthfully, it's a gorgeous day, perfect conditions. Everybody's in a good mood. And I can make complete sentences just about. Phone is wet and foggy. But I did it. Damn, Gino. Heart rate 145 right now. I just finished the longest distance I've ever run in my life, 20 miles. as part of the last long run before the actual marathon. I have this phone propped up against a tree to help me hold it steady because I'm weak. Before your final long run of training, you're supposed to focus on it as a rehearsal. So eat what you're going to eat before the marathon the night before your long run. I had pasta with some bolognese. Wake up at the same time approximately of your marathon. So I was up early this morning, had a banana, had a coffee, finished the pasta. And then I made sure to stack my shorts with gels. I only needed 3, I thought, so I packed 4. Because they say pack 1 more than you think you will need. Come marathon day, I think I'll probably need 4. Something I learned and realized is I've been very set on running without stopping. I've done half marathons twice, so I know I can do 13 miles without stopping. But this is training. You're not supposed to hit your race pace. You're supposed to do it at a comfortable pace. And I realized while I've had these gels, I haven't stopped to drink once. Now, when I did the half marathon, there's drinking stations every 1.5 miles. So how stupid am I being not drinking at all? So at mile 16, I stopped, went to one of these carts in Central Park and got a Gatorade. And I was beating myself up in my mind. You're never gonna make the full distance if you can't do it better. And then I realized, be kind to yourself. This is training. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna do things in an incomplete way. You're gonna be imperfect, and it's okay. Because you need to be able to roll with those punches. Had the Gatorade, had the drink, kept running, just finished now. My legs started to cramp at mile 19. Now my legs haven't cramped at all. But it's okay, you're learning how your body behaves and reacts when you hit these distances. But today's lesson, and you do learn something every day you train, is be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself, be gentle with yourself. You're pushing your body beyond what you've done before, and that's okay.
And the best part about these tips I'm giving you are step 3 and step 4. Step 3 is about fueling your body. You will need to eat more of a high carb diet the nights before you do your long runs. You will need to hydrate on a regular basis. I also use these electrolyte powder products. There are many out there. And what that helps is that your body not only stays hydrated, but you also keep your salt levels up and the other electrolytes that you need in order to stay healthy. In fact, I didn't realize this, but if you just drink water, you can dilute all of the bits and bobs in your body. That's a very scientific explanation. It makes you less healthy. So as you push yourself, definitely hydrate before and after you run. It's also an excuse to fuel up and eat some of your favorite things. Post-race, I like to eat gummy bears because it's kind of the candy I like. I'm just a big kid at heart. It is also good to get your glucose levels back up after you run. And step 4 is all about avoiding injury. For me, that meant continuing to weight train and lift weights on days that I was able to do that. Just to be fully transparent, for the first few months, yes, I was able to weight train. I did take that time off during my Europe trip. And then toward the end of marathon training, I was so exhausted because I had never put my body through this level of intensity that I took weight training off. But strengthening your muscles, lifting weights can really help you prevent having an injury from running so much. And the final note I want to leave you with is this is the best excuse in the world to pamper yourself. Guess what? If you're going to marathon train, you absolutely need a massage. Okay? Tell them Errol sent you. You have to take care of your body. If you can use any of those devices that help you massage your body, absolutely do that. There are all sorts of nifty machines that will clamp around your leg and make sure the blood keeps flowing. Absolutely use that as well. Take those salt baths. I haven't taken a bath in years before this training. And eat your favorite foods, do your favorite thing, and you have to rest. You have to get your 8 hours of sleep. So strangely enough, as much as people focus on building their calendar, getting in interval runs, hill repeats, and long runs, you also have to make sure you're resting, you're sleeping, you're getting off your feet, you're eating some of your favorite healthy foods, you're hydrating, and you're taking care of your body. So how do you prepare for the big day itself, and how do you actually run the marathon? That's in my next video.